right. Hang on just a second. Was having some internet issues. Want to see where everyone else is. How was your weekend?
It was awesome. What about yours?
Wow. Okay. Sounds like you want to share something.
I do.
Thank you for asking. All right, Lorinda, you're up. Tell us what happened.
I got an email, I think at 12:03 this morning. We're under contract.
Beautiful. Congratulations. Now, why you were up at 12:03 to get the email, that's a different story. Right?
Yes, that's a different story. I heard it ding when on my way to the bathroom. Normally I don't check it because, like you said, it's 12:03. Who checks it that late? And I said, well, they just look.
Your connection
goes back off.
Good.
And I saw,
you turn off your dings at midnight now.
I know I forgot. Normally I put a do not disturb on at 9, but I just forgot to turn it on because it's not automatic. So that's what happened. So she's on the contract, and I'm waiting to talk to her this morning. She's on her way to work, so she said she'll call me back when she gets to her workstation.
Beautiful. Congratulations. That's super awesome. I'm excited for you.
Yes.
Good job. All right.
Thank you.
Who else wants to share some news about their weekend?
I had a good weekend.
Okay, Ryan, right? Tell us what happened.
Well, there's good news and not as good news. I did take people out Friday and Saturday, and we put in an offer on a house that was very competitive, and they won the offer yesterday, which was awesome. Nice. But they're not my clients is the only bad part. But I was helping out someone else. But I got to do the whole thing, and we won the offer. And it was many offers, so I guess we did something right. So that was good.
Great job. Wait, so you were paid to just put together the paperwork or something?
Well, it was with Peggy from the office, and she was double booked, and she's like, "Can you help me? I got these clients, and they're really nice. They're from California, and like I kind of was able to work with them, and so I took them out. I mean, she paid me to take them out, to do that. But then they found a house, and I'm like, okay, we found a house, and then I did work with her to kind of like put together the offer, like, we've been kind of doing it sort of together, but I mean, technically they're her clients, but I got to go through the whole thing and put in the offer that, with many offers. They had so many offers that they canceled the open house for Sunday even. And anyway, the offer that we put together won. So that was good because they had just lost a house the weekend before. They were second. So
well, I've always known Peggy to be very fair. If not more than fair. So I suspect you will be compensated for your efforts handsomely. So congratulations. It feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It did. And then I had to scramble because they only have 3 days due diligence. That's what it took to win the offer. So I was scrambling last night to find an inspector and just trying to do all that. But it was good. Like the whole exercise was good. I was like, I can do this. Totally. I just need the clients.
Okay,
Fantastic,
so that
Ryan.
right there is the powerful message of the moment of the day, right?
Right.
I mean,
I just need the
exactly
clients. I can do it all.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's. I'm a believer that it happened that way for exactly a reason, and you needed a win, and you got a win. And like always, hey, just like always, sometimes we get paid for our wins, and sometimes we get paid a little less for our wins, and that's okay, right? I think the main point is that you had that experience and you were kind enough to share about it, and now others realize that it ain't that hard. All you got to do is get into a relationship with people so that those are your clients, and they come to you when the time comes for assistance. So fantastic. This is great. 2 deals under contract, guys. Congratulations. Who else?
I want to give a shout out to Jenny Parsley, who has maintained her composure and stayed in the solution in a difficult situation where the other agent made a mistake and did not review the contract very well and had her seller sign something that he's not willing to do. And so she's having to deal with an agent who is going to give up a portion of her commission to make it right because they signed off that they were going to pay closing costs. and then came back and said, no, that was a mistake. We're not going to sign it. But they'd signed it, and the agent, it was the fault of the agent for not reviewing the contract. So Jenny's had to work with this agent who's upset. It's not the easiest transaction, but she's maintained and has reached out to Melba, reached out for help. So I want to give her a shout out. Jenny,
Beautiful.
you're just doing great. And, you know, real estate isn't always like this, but sometimes people get complacent and don't do the, you know, especially agents, sometimes they get busy and complacent and don't read the contract through. So when I say read it verbatim, word for word, make sure there's no little things. This is a good example of that. But anyway, good job, Jenny. And I knew you wouldn't speak up, but I wanted to say it.
Well, thank you, but I have to attribute to my support to Candace and Melba for walking me through this, because it has been a challenge, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've
Great
done
job.
great.
We're learning every single day. This is exactly what I mean by learning every single day. Good thing this lesson you learned without having to fork over your commission for closing costs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, guys, is that like Candace said, you know, you get busy or you're distracted, whatever happens, and like maybe you overlook a detail or you fill in the blank wrong or something like that. You know, a lot of that stuff is preventable, and it's preventable by really honing in on the details of the contract. So like, let me give you an example. If you're on this call today and you can't very, very thoroughly explain contingencies or kickouts or closing costs or loan exhibits and these kind of things, let today be the day. Let, you know, when there's no pressure on you, go print out that exhibit, read it through, make sure you completely understand it. If something's a little iffy or you want to triple check something, ask one of us, so that next time every time that you study that, you're minimizing the likelihood of there being a mistake in the future. Is that fair? Everyone?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just
Perfect.
say, I had not too long ago, I had a listing, and there was a temporary occupancy agreement because the seller needed to stay for 60 days. And if I had not read toward the bottom where it said that 5,000 would be held, and it was a special stip written in little teeny letters that said the closing attorney would hold 5,000 in escrow until the final walkthrough before the seller moved out. And had she not been prepared for that and gone to closing and found her check to be 5,000 less than what we estimated, that could have been a problem, and it would have reflected on me. So even those kind of exhibits, read all the way through and all the way to the bottom.
Exactly. Okay. Anyone else have any good news they want to share?
I
We're on a
have,
roll right now. Man,
Yeah.
this is awesome. See, I tell you, everyone thinks real estate doesn't happen around the holidays. It definitely does. All right, Lorinda, you're up.
Okay, so mine is more personally based than it is professionally
That's
based,
fine.
but I felt like for the longest time, since my divorce, I have been like so far away from God. So I decided this weekend to go to church, go back to church, and it's just part of a natural conversation now to talk to people about everything that's going on in life, not just you know, emotional stuff or, you know, the kids, but part of my normal conversations are turning out to be that, you know, I'm in real estate, dual career agent, and I just was able to have some good conversations with old friends that I used to go to church with. So
I love that. I love
it was
that.
a win for the personal life, but it was also a win because I'm reconnecting with people that, you know, more of my sphere.
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge you sharing that, right? It takes some courage to share that. And you know, look, if you don't bring your personal A game to the business, you're not going to have an A level business, right? So that's why we talk about God, family, and then business, right? So you got to have the energy, you got to have the mindset, you got to have the commitment and the willingness to show up every single day. And so I don't want you to think that this is not a forum where that kind of stuff can be celebrated. Okay, so great job. Man, you guys are impressing me this morning. What else?
Hey, Bill, can I share?
Of course.
Well, mine is not so much good news, but it was
Everyone
definitely a
stop
blessing.
qualifying the news. Just share the news. It's awesome. It was good enough for you to share. Let's celebrate it.
No, I was supposed to have a closing today, but it fell through on Friday. And I think this is the most upset that I've been in my real estate career. But it's been a lesson learned. And just to give you all a backstory, I guess my client was getting a condo, and there's this thing called a Fidelity Insurance, and I was more so upset because the lender just told me about it on Tuesday that the HOA wasn't willing to cooperate with the Fidelity Insurance, and just down to the wire, I never talked to anybody within the lender, the correct contact, and the HOA is not willing to cooperate to get the necessary coverage in order for us to close the deal. And my client has a temporary occupancy from her sale, so everything is like going into shambles right now.
So what is the just so we don't leave everyone in suspense, what's going on? The master association policy is not syncing up with the H06 or what?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, it's a lot of confusion because at first they told us that they weren't willing to get the Fidelity Insurance, and I'm like, okay, it's federally regulated. Now they're saying that it's not enough Fidelity Insurance in order for them to close the deal. And so I guess they were just saying that for Rocket Mortgage, they were not willing to go up on the amount of coverage that they have for the insurance. And so in order to do that, they wanted my client to bring 10% to closing versus 5%. And my client just felt like, I don't feel like, why am I being penalized for having to bring an additional 5% because, they're not willing to get the insurance.
When you say they're not, you're referring to the HOA, right?
HOA, yes. So she's just pretty much
so
like,
how have other conventional deals closed in there?
right. So that's what they were saying, that they closed the deal like a month or so ago. And I guess just this particular lender have a certain amount for that. So we're just going back to the drawing board and just going with a different lender to try to see if we can still close the deal. So she's still willing to go along with everything, but just as far as my end, she's paying like $1,900 to re-rent her house back out from Open Door, and it's the holidays, so it's just putting me in a awkward situation.
Well,
So just to explain what Fidelity
Rocket
Insurance
Mortgage,
is.
but when you don't have a relationship with the lender, this is stuff that can happen.
Correct.
This is not your fault, Markia. This is a straight up lender problem. I mean, you're the one that's affected by
I
it.
definitely know that, because I should have been informed, like, a week and a half ago when they were in communication, so that me and the other agent, the seller was even willing to pay extra money for them to get the insurance that they need. It's just been
you should have been
a mess.
informed a month ago.
Yeah, I'm like,
That's
this isn't about the appraisal. This isn't about it's like some insurance. Like, I'm very upset.
Yeah, this is straight up the lender dropping the ball. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. All right, let me know if I can help you in any way, okay?
Just so everybody knows, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Candace, just so everybody knows, say what?
I don't know what you're going to say, but maybe explain what we're kind of talking in French about.
Yeah, so Fidelity Insurance, so the typical homeowners association has money in their operations and reserve accounts, and the accounts are crucial for maintaining the services the HOA provides. So when there's money involved, there's also the possibility of theft, fraud, and other financial crimes. So Fidelity Insurance protects against that.
Well, in ultimately what's happening is that the lender is going to mandate, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lender is going to mandate certain levels of insurance coverage when somebody buys into a condo community. And in order to know how the HOA's master insurance policy and the individual condo owner's insurance policy would merge or work together, they have to be at certain levels.
Right.
Is this just an issue of the HOA is not at a level that this particular lender's insurance provider wants it to be at, and therefore it's fallen apart,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
Yep, that's,
And different
Yeah.
lenders have different investors and different requirements. So it's not just standard across the board that every lender is going to require this. So good job in
standard
shopping for
across
a
the
new
board,
lender.
in my opinion, that the lender looks for problems like this day one.
Yeah, that
And
too.
therefore, I don't work with lenders that mess around like this. It kind of goes back to, I was about to say this with respect to Ryan, which is like, you know, she mentioned, oh, I'm trying to wrangle up a home inspector because we got to get the guy out there within 3 days. Like I got to the point, you know, in the busy season where like I was almost sharing my calendar with the home inspector because it was like, hey, I'm close to somebody. What you got? I'm close to somebody. What you got? I'm close to somebody. How's next week look? Hey,
Yeah.
can I hold that Thursday? Hey, can I hold that Tuesday? I mean, like I was in the point where like I knew like when my home inspector was like going to lunch because we were talking so often.
Yeah.
You know, don't be afraid to like push the guy. Say, hey, I'm going to give you a lot of business. How's next week look? Got anything for Friday? How's Tuesday look? Can I hold that? Like nothing says you can't approach the home inspector to check their calendar prior to you going under contract, so you know whether 3 days due diligence is even possible.
I would totally agree. That's what happened over the weekend because they countered on Saturday morning and it was due Saturday night. And in the meantime, I had already called a couple of inspectors just to say, hey, what do you have available next week, Wednesday? Because the seller needs 48 hours to turn the utilities on. And so I had already jumped on it. So when I called my client back to say, hey, they countered, please sign this. And oh, by the way, they have Wednesday at 9 a.m. available. Can you make that? Are you free at that time? So it really does work in advance.
If you're representing a seller, will you just tell them to get the utilities on? Gosh, can we make this even more harder than it already is? Just get the utilities on. Quit playing games. Seriously, I'm sorry, but come on, just get the utilities on. Why do we have to play that mess? Right? You could always say something like, you know, the due diligence starts on the day the utilities are turned on, and it would go for 3 days after that or something like that. If you really needed to, like, if you were trying to mess around with this whole, well, let's try to save 40 cents by not putting the gas on that day for an empty home. Sorry. This was like, Candace, remember how much of a nightmare this was back in the foreclosure days? When like half the inventory didn't have utilities on and we were showing homes at night with flashlights and stuff. It was insane. Just turn on the utilities.
I really think inspectors should have charged like $50 because they could only inspect what they could see, and that wasn't much.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. And half the time we'd get out there and they said they were on, but they weren't on. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm having flashbacks here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the growth plan now that I've aired all my dirty laundry today. All right. How's everyone doing? Everyone happy? Everyone excited about the holidays?
Yes.
Got some more people on video than normal. I appreciate that.
No, okay. I'm totally stressed because I haven't done anything for the holidays.
Well,
don't worry about it. I haven't done anything
either. Threw some ornaments on last night. We finally gave up on anything outside because we were just like, it's no point now. Just take it down in a week. Forget it.
You just gotta tell the world you're a realtor. Somebody else has got to do the decorations. You want decorations? You do it. I'm focusing on my business here.
When my family gets here this week, they can decorate if it's not enough.
There you go. There you go. All right, I want to share with you guys, there's a tab on the systems page that I have shared with all of you. Okay, and it is it's basically actually let me just hang on. What it is it's essentially a framework for what you are going to take intentional behavior towards in a certain amount of time. Okay, so a good example of that is on this, I say growth is achieved through intentionality. Okay, what are your specific intentions to learn, read, and attend each month? Now you could change out those verbs if you wanted, but the point is that every day you get an opportunity to say, I am going to get this blank done, right? If it's, I'm going to, go to the grocery store today, or I've got to pick up something from a friend today, right? You decide what items in your life, what tasks in your life deserve priority. Is that fair? Okay, so somehow we've decided we're really good at that from a personal standpoint, right? Oh, this bill's got to get paid on this time, or hey, my kid's waiting for me, so I don't want to be late for them, at school, or oh my gosh, I don't have any food in the fridge, so I got to go to the store. We tend to we tend to be pretty good about prioritizing our personal needs, right? But sometimes what we fail on is prioritizing our business needs and the stuff that's a little bit less tangible, so to speak, right? So it's like, it may be just as important that you learn how to explain a financing contingency, but you've never said to yourself, I got to learn it today. That makes sense? Or has anyone ever had that level of urgency with something that doesn't feel so urgent?
No, it makes sense. Today I have a 2:00 appointment for a listing presentation, and I'm still like trying to edit and trying to get my presentation together. Whereas I could have been doing that all weekend.
I'll give you the grace of that, but you could have also done that over the last 3 months too.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew that at some point, and you brought this up, so please don't think that
Yeah.
I'm like picking at you individually, but you knew that you're most likely never going to get a listing without having a conversation about getting a listing, right?
Yeah.
And it would be helpful to come to that type of meeting with some statistics and some collateral and these kind of things, right? And to kind of really understand the flow of that meeting, right? First, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about that, right? And sometimes we need somebody else to come into our world, like an appointment, for us to finally give us a deadline. Then you get that person in that new line to totally stress us out, right? Now, I'd rather somebody else put a deadline on you than no one ever putting a deadline on you and therefore it never getting done. But it's a whole lot less stressful if you put the deadline on yourself, right? So you might say, let's see, like, I'm going to understand what a 31 tax deferred exchange is. Okay, I'm not going to wait until somebody calls me and asks me to do one, and then I'm like totally flustered and I don't know how to react in that moment. I'm going to say, hey, this is something that a real estate professional ought to be aware of, and today I'm going to spend 20 minutes learning about it, right? And you create some intentionality around the topic that you're going to study or the topic that you're going to embrace, right? That's basically what a growth plan is. Okay, it is saying, I know that if I don't specifically commit to certain behaviors, then I'm leaving it up to kind of the whims of the world, right? And if by chance the whims of the world cause me to have to do a listing presentation, then I'll just go ahead and learn it and do it and freak out, right? And then now it's starting to impact the, in your particular situation, it's bringing you anxiety. It's bringing you, your house is not going to be decorated like you wished it was. Like it like trickles into so many other things. Whereas if you would just sit down at work and look at the things you got to do every day and say, oh, now's a good time to do that, you wouldn't have that problem. Right. So I'm going to ask you all, and by the way, I'm not anywhere close to perfect on this, right? I've got stuff on my list. It's been on my list for years, right? I'll be the first to admit that, but I do have a growth plan, and it specifically says what I'm going to learn and what I'm going to study and what I'm going to practice and what I'm going to learn about each month. Okay. And what it also says And I have a kind of a version of this, so if you will, every week too. That's the 411. You know, I've got a little list of projects that I'm going to focus on, and I look at that and I say, yep, that's the one that's most important based on everything that's going on in my world that week. And so I have a little slot in my calendar to say, hey, I'm going to spend some time on that. Right? I'm going to watch a video. I'm going to practice. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to read this particular book, which means I got to go buy it. Right? So it's all about intentionality. And what I found, and we can kind of take a, let me do a quick sidebar here, which is when I've sat down with a lot of you and walked through this Life by Design document, I've described two types of running a business. The first type is I'm going to work real hard. I'm going to not spend a lot of money, and then hope to God that whatever money is left over is roughly in alignment with the lifestyle that I've been living. What we generally find is that's not right. That's not really usually the case. And what ends up happening is the average realtor, you know, isn't paying their quarterly estimates. They're not, you know, they're not able to make investments that everyone knows would help them. You know, family union comes around, it's going to cost you $3,000 to go to family union. I can't afford family union. Well, you knew it was coming. Why didn't you just plan to sell an extra home so you wouldn't have that problem? You know it's going to help you. You know you're going to meet thousands of agents if you're intentional. You see what I'm saying? So that everything we basically are so distracted on the things that matter most that when we realize that they matter most, you can't afford to do anything about it. Make sense? Oh, Bold's coming around. I don't have $800. I'm not making light of the $800. I'm telling you, if you would have planned better, you'd have the $800. Right? So the other version is to say, my business requires this amount of money to pay for this amount of stuff that is the profit that I desire to have. And therefore, I'm going to build a plan that makes certain that that happens no matter what. And therefore, I'm going to need to speak to this number of people, or I'm going to need to have appointments with this number of people, that kind of thing. Make sense? That's the intentionality. Okay. So it all comes down to intentionality. You can either wait for the world to come at you and you're in reaction mode all day, or you can say, hey, I need a certain amount of stuff from the world. That's the whole point of this business. And I'm going to go out there and get it. And these are the resources and tools and activities I've got to do in order to make certain that that happens. Do y'all see the difference between the two? I'll give you a non-real estate example. Let's say I say, well, I'm going to eat healthier. Yet I don't do anything in my fridge or in my pantry or whatever, right? How am I supposed to eat healthy if I don't change anything else? Right? If I still got all the bad food in my fridge, right? If I'm really committed to eating healthy, then I'll throw all the crap out that isn't healthy and I'll go buy a bunch of other stuff. Then I got no choice. You see what I'm saying? So when you make a plan, are you setting yourself up for success, or are you setting yourself up for failure? Right? Hey, I'm going to go running every day at 6 a.m. Okay. Well, where are your running clothes? Where's your alarm? Right? When did you go to bed? Are you setting yourself up? Are you being intentional so that you're increasing the likelihood that that will happen? All right, what have you guys heard so far?
Plan and know your numbers.
You know, numbers are like 10 steps down the road, honestly. It's the plan and the commitment to the plan that'll get you started, right? Because if you start talking about step 10 and you're like numbers, and then the first thing that pops in your mind is, oh, I'm not a numbers person, whatever that means. Then you can't even do the first step that has nothing to do with numbers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's kind of like every Christmas I think, oh, why didn't I start budgeting in January? You know, why didn't I put aside $100 a month so that I had lots and lots of money to buy lots and lots of presents, instead of, you know, thinking about, you know, for instance, if I want to buy a leather jacket for somebody, I have to think, oh, well, if I get that, then I need to you know, I won't be able to get that for that person. So budgeting, it's kind of like that. I equate it to planning out your year and really, along with the learning, being smart about it.
Yep, that is that's a great example. And it's that type of mindset that is, quite honestly, it's poisonous. That's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And sometimes we are forced into a scarcity mindset because of our unintentionality in some of the other parts of our life.
Absolutely.
Right. It's kind of like, I think I said this the other day. It's like, if I say no to something financially, it's not generally because I couldn't afford it. It's because I've determined that it's not a priority.
Mhm.
Right? Like, if you said, hey, let's go out to this $200 a night restaurant, like, I can afford to do that. I just don't value that.
Mhm.
Right? I'd rather spend the money on something else or make another type of investment or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Most of us aren't making decisions like that. We're making decisions from a scarcity. We don't even get to evaluate whether it's a priority or not. We can't get there because we might not be able to afford it flat out. Right? Money isn't everything, but it does give you some options.
So let's
Gives you a little
talk,
breathing room.
I was going to say, so let's talk about some of the things that could be on the business growth plan, and planning for that.
Good. I've got a list right here.
I figured.
Go ahead, Candace. What are some of the things that are on your mind?
Well, for definitely learning. I don't have it with me, it's downstairs, but the back cover of the bold worksheet had books to read. I listen to a book on tape, about one a month. Sometimes I listen to parts of books and I finish them at different times, depending on what I'm in the mood for. But books are definitely part of that. I think planning client events is one part of that. Get-togethers with clients. I want to be able to plan for, hey, Shalon, I haven't talked to you in a month. Let's go get together and catch up and let's have lunch. I want to be able to pay for that. I'm thinking about things like bold, things like family reunion, some of the MAPS training that comes along that we can use. I want to plan out my marketing plan. I want to plan out, which I already done, the GPS, of course, and then the 411. And there's a lot. There's more than I can think of, but that's just a basic to get started.
I want to share a book recommendation with all of you. I know I've listened to this, come to think of it, I thought for some reason I had listened to it, but I had listened to just a bunch of summaries and commentary on it. And I've taken a little bit of his private coaching, but Brendan Burchard's High Performance Habits is probably the best book I have read in years.
Yeah.
It is outstanding. Outstanding. That makes you rethink just about everything. Right. So I'll make a post about that here shortly, but it's called High Performance Habits. I just love his voice too. It's like so like soothing almost. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but sometimes that's what if that's what it takes to get you enamored and interested, then great. Right. I think another thing that you should consider is, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not speaking to any one of you in particular, but the average person has way too little financial intelligence. And one thing I see is that a lot of people have never had a lot of money and had responsibility over maintaining it and growing it, and they are hanging on to a lot of old thinking around money and a lot of scarcity thinking around money, and it is causing them to way underperform. And you should be asking yourself, how well do I even understand money right now? Do I understand the implications of what's going to happen when they drop a $1.9 trillion onto the market? You know that roughly a quarter of our money supply has been created in the last year. Do we understand what's going to happen? Right. So what I'm suggesting, that's not a political statement, it's an economic statement. You got to understand how interest rates impact this and how that impacts this. And you see what I'm saying? Because your people are having to make these decisions as well, right? So is that a priority for you? And if so, when are you going to, when is it going to get on your calendar, right? Another thing is general business, right? Are you reading the business books? Are you listening to the business podcast? Are you allowing new, fresh information into your world, right? So you can process it and ask questions about it and challenge it, right? Leadership. Many of us are in the process of building a business. And at some point, you're going to look around and say, oh my gosh, I'm slammed. And I can't do all this by myself anymore and maintain the quality of life I was seeking at the beginning and maintain the level of customer service and customer experience that I desire for my people to have. And therefore I need help. Well, if you're not the right leader, the right help's not showing up. You follow me? So what are you learning about that? How intentional are you being about that? Scripts, right? Conversations. How familiar are you getting with those things? And you guys, I'm not trying to brag here, but like when I'm reciting all these scripts to you, I'm not reading them off a sheet of paper. Like they're in here because I've said them 1 trillion times. You see what I'm saying? So how comfortable are you with the scripts? Does that need to be a daily intention or a weekly intention? Technology, right? Specific objection handling, or just explaining the contract, or learning about negotiation, or personality assessments, or learning how to be empathetic, or learning how to ask better questions. Does that make sense? What else is on your list, Candace?
I don't have it with me, but the classes I want to take in the office, it's how many listings I want to go on, how many listings I want to take, how many buyer listings I want to take, seller listings and buyer listings. I'm trying to think. I was in that flow a minute ago.
What else? What are you guys hearing? What can you think of anything that it's time to get intentional about that you've not been intentional about? Could be an exercise routine. It could be a commitment to. Here's a really good one. What if you committed to 10 minutes, 15 minutes a week of recapping your week? Let's say you did it on Sunday night and you just kind of reviewed what happened the previous week, what you got on the schedule for the next week. And you basically, it's almost like a weekly meeting with your boss, if you will, right? It's a meeting where you kind of go between being the worker bee and being the owner of your real estate organization. Say, hey, how's the owner doing? Is the owner supplying me with all the resources I need? Hey, how's the worker doing? Are they showing up on time and giving an honest day's work? Does the owner need some new classes on being a better owner? Does the worker need some classes on being a better worker? Do we have the appropriate systems to communicate with each other so these meetings go easier? Do y'all understand that? I mean, you're all business owners, right?
I was just going to say, if you don't have QuickBooks set up, getting QuickBooks set up so that you can track your expenses, doing that at the beginning is going to make the end of the year much easier. And also you can do you can see where you are at different times, which is important. So like Bill is talking about reviewing every once in a while, and I would do that systematically, like every month, review your profit and loss, every quarter, review it on a bigger scale, and shift and pivot. I love that shift pivot based on what you're finding out about what your business is like. So if you spent $600 doing Google ads, and all of a sudden you're not your follow-up isn't there, and you're not converting those, maybe you need to work on your follow-up system, and maybe there's some learning involved around there. So that's the kind of thing that I would think about. There's just so much. I mean, I just ordered, this is just so little, but I made a commitment that this year I'm not going to miss anybody's birthday, and it has to be visual for me, right? So I ordered the Dutch have this, my husband's Dutch, they have this thing called a birthday calendar, and you open it up and it just has a list. January 1, 2, 3 through 31, and you just write the names of the people on the day of their birthday. And every month you open it up and you can see how many people have a birthday and what days they are. So now I've got that. I've got all my birthdays that I can think of entered, and I've ordered some birthday cards so that I never have to miss a birthday again. There's also something called Send Out Cards, which is an online service. If you haven't looked at that, you can look that up. They'll send out your cards for you with your handwriting, with your photographs, whatever you want. So anyway, there's services like that, but it's just getting all your little details in line so that you don't have to waste your energy thinking about those things, and you actually can spend your energy learning and growing and doing the things that will move your business forward.
Right. A lot of us came from industries where that stuff was already set up for us, or it was somebody else's job to set it up. And the cool part about being an entrepreneur is you get to set it up the way you want to set it up. Right. And it resembles your kind of attitude towards business and the themes that are important to you, and the mission that you came up with in your heart, right? All these kind of things. What have you guys heard today? Is there one thing that resonated with you? Have you identified maybe the very first thing that's on that list that needs attention? Let's be interactive a tiny bit.
I mean, I think that you're just trying to plan it it can be tough. I mean, even if you see that there's a lot, that there's a lot to do, and it's just, trying to get it down, but then sticking to it, and I know I'm guilty sometimes. I put it all down and then I don't even know where I put the list. It's like, I think part of it is I gotta find a better way to have it like front and center so that I keep looking at it, or have a better checkoff system than just like, you can plan all you want, but if you don't do anything with it, then
No, I think that's very valid. And the first thing that I would say is, do you think that you would pay attention to that list more if it was online or if it was written on a sheet of paper? If it was written on a sheet of paper, then you should have a little sheet of paper right there staring you in the face all day long at your workstation that are basically projects or ideas or something like that. And then maybe your job is to add to it whenever something comes into your head, but your job on Monday morning is to select one of those things and knock it out. And then you have some, we'll just call it project time in your calendar every day. Not every day, but maybe like, let's say 2 hours on a Tuesday or something. And that becomes the slot that you've earmarked for whatever project you've identified is the most important. It's like, I only had one kind of real job, if you will. And my boss essentially turned it into my business right away. He's like, look, here's how you'll know. The more we talk, I got 1 day of training. And then after that day, he says, okay, the more we talk, the worse you're doing. I was like, wow, okay. And I was 22 or whatever. And I didn't know any better. So that, by the way, that's not good leadership, right? But I was in charge from the get-go, right? So I never had anyone telling me what to do. I had to go figure it out myself. But why don't you sometimes pretend like you're the boss? Like if you had a job, you'd show up and your boss would tell you what to do every day. Like some of us need that type of structure, right? So Ryan, pick number one priority on that list, and today do it before you end the day. I mean, if you hear it that way, does that make you more likely to do it? I don't know. I mean, we got to experiment with a lot of these different these systems, but another thing is that's a great time to look at your numbers and say, hey, I didn't go on any appointments last week. In fact, I only talked to 7 people about real estate. Am I really expecting to have a incredible business if I talk to 7 people a week about real estate? I mean, come on, that's not going to work, right? So what do I have to do in my schedule and in my mindset so that I can have more conversations? You follow what I'm saying?
And Bill, what do you think? This is kind of my idea for making it simplified in a system. Write down the things that you want to accomplish in the year, but don't put deadlines around them yet. And then think about your first quarter and put some of those things that are most, prioritize them and put some of those things that are most important in the first quarter and get it scheduled. So it basically becomes like a
Well, guys, that's what a 411 is.
Exactly.
That's what this is. This says, I'll give you an example. A lot of you know that I'm involved with KW in Israel, right? So I've got KW Israel contribution. I've contributed money, but I've not really contributed time or resources or anything. So I have a goal to contribute. That's pretty vague, by the way. Contribute more in 2022. That's not going to happen today, right? That's just it's not my priority today. It'll get there because I'm going to look at this every freaking day, but it's not on the list today. So like in January, what can I do to make certain that happens? So maybe I'll send my guy an email and say, hey, I'd like to get more involved this year. When can we talk? Okay. And then I do that. And then I move on to another priority, right? I've kind of put that chaos out into the world with intentionality, and then we'll see how it all comes back. You see what I'm saying? It's just one little tiny step.
Yeah. I've taken away today that I need to be more intentional about my finances. And I'm really good about following a budget when I keep it and keep up with it. And that's in my personal budget because I haven't done enough real estate to really feel like I need that I have enough money to put into a QuickBooks. But now I'm going to just start at 0. And my first closing coming up this week is just go right into QuickBooks and divvy it out and not touch until I need it for that purpose. Normally, if I don't divvy it out and tell it where it go, it's like, poof, it's gone.
I would even say, for those that are sitting here saying, well, I haven't even gotten one closing, and therefore my business doesn't have a budget. Oh, it's got a budget. It's got $0 in there.
Yeah.
So you should look at it every morning and say, what the hell's going on here? I need to put some money in here, which means I need to go do the behaviors that they keep telling me to do.
Yeah.
Right? Go talk to people, learn the script, study the market, get out there, meet people, shake hands, give the business cards to people, get their information, right? And you keep doing the activities, and one day you look at the bank account, you're like, wow, I've never had that much money in the bank.
Yeah, and now that you guys are talking about focusing on which activities work best for you to be intentional, because some people, you look at numbers and on a computer screen, you're like, okay, that doesn't really do it for me. But visually, I just put up my board today with my different levels of priority for my leads and the different colors of my things on them. And that's
such a proud papa.
I know, you taught me that last week. Now I'm doing it. My daughter's like, what is this big board over here? I'm like,
it's a school project.
I don't have a desk. I need a desk. That's my next goal for my my little living room over here. But yeah, thank you guys. That was definitely what I needed to hear for intentionality and this the business planning.
So always just be thinking, what is the small step that I can take today to move the domino run forward? So I've tried, and I'm still not very good at this. I've tried sleeping in my workout clothes. I've tried sleeping in my workout shoes even. I've tried it all so that immediately when I get up, I go for a run or something. Still haven't figured it out, but I'm trying. You see what I'm saying? And I'm trying. What?
I'm just going to tell you what works for me. Ron and I will put on music and we will dance to that music for an hour. And we are both just hot and sweaty when it's over, and the next day sore. And it's fun. And you don't have to put on workout clothes. Sometimes I dance in my Uggs.
Yeah, I mean, it's enlisting support, right? That's what they say in the one thing is
Yeah.
who are you sharing your goals with so that they are willing and ready to help you,
But if he wasn't
right?
there, I'd still
That's
put
your
on music.
accountability partner.
But I
Yeah.
have to say, if he wasn't there, I'd still put on music and dance because it's fun. And plus you can dance differently when nobody's
Well,
watching.
he helped you make it become fun, right?
For sure. For
That's
sure.
awesome. Okay, let's do a little around the circle. Lorinda, what is your one thing for today? Lorinda with an A.
Finish up my listing presentation and kill it.
That
at
would be
2
you.
o'clock.
What?
Yeah, I said, finish up my listing presentation and kill it at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Remember, the listing presentation is mostly just asking questions, right? So just and 75% of the time they hire the only person they meet with, which would be you. So you got it. Just go in there confidently with a smile. Bring the paperwork. Good job. Ryan, what's your one thing for today?
Well, I really need to work on this GPS because I had planned to do it some over the weekend, and then I got busy with all this other stuff with the clients. And then I also have to go to this inspection today, but so I needed to like regroup and plan. And I
Okay.
have about 7 people that I need to talk to before the holidays for sure. I mean,
Love
others,
it.
but
All right.
7 I need to follow up with.
I'm going to make the GPS super simple for you.
Okay.
Send me a copy of exactly what you have, and let me give you a first round of edits. And then everything else from that point forward will be easier. Is that cool?
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Candace, what is your one thing today?
Coaching and a listing appointment.
All right. Lots of listing appointments today. Ginny, what is your one thing?
I'd like to plan ahead better. Try to work on that. Just putting things on my schedule, because a lot of those things that I need to do, they never get put on my schedule. So maybe if I plan ahead, write it down my schedule, it'll happen.
Okay. That's a good first start. You know, sometimes we don't value time as much as we ought to because we don't understand what's taking our time. Right. Put it all on the schedule. Like I used to have a coach that planned spontaneity. I know that sounds crazy, but he's like, at 6 o'clock today, I'm going to be spontaneous. Right. And he knew that if he didn't put it on the schedule, he wouldn't have the time to be able to do whatever he felt like doing. So he put it on the schedule. And then at 6 o'clock, he goes, hey, wife, what should we do? Schedule's wide open. Let's be spontaneous. Isn't that interesting?
Very cool. I would be in that camp and try to do that in my life. It'd be beneficial.
All right. Well, today's your day, Lorinda. Why not? Okay. The other Lorinda, what is your one
So
thing
funny.
today? What's that?
Follow up with my client to make sure. I think that is so cute. The Lorinda and Lorinda, because every time you say Lorinda, I jump in and it's not me. The one thing I plan to do today is to connect with the closing attorney to see if I can get the wiring instructions so that my client can wire over her earnest money, and then get the closing costs, whatever that closing cost sheet that closing attorneys send out, so that I can go over all that information with my client.
Okay, beautiful. Just as a quick summary statement for everyone, remember we have 2 jobs. We have one job, which is lead generation, that never gets disturbed. And then you described, Brenda, is everything else. I know it's important, but don't let that occupy your entire day. Send the closing attorney an email that says, please send me the closing instructions and the closing disclosure. And then you turn off your email and you go lead generate for 2 hours. And then when you're done, you forward the email to your client. See what I'm saying?
Good.
Got to make sure you do the lead gen, then you can maintain everything else. That is not an emergency, which means that it's got to get done, and it will get done probably before lunch, but you got to make sure you're generating leads too. Okay. All right. I'm real proud of you guys. Lots of appointments, lots of smiles, lots of learning. It is a pleasure to be in business with you guys. Thank you. Candace,
Did you say
you
your
have-
one thing? Did you say your one thing? Did I miss
Oh,
it?
no, I did not actually. My one thing is, let's see. My one thing is I need to, I'm going to sit down with Robin. Robin and I have been trying to get on each other's calendar for a while, and I believe today is the day that it can happen. So we got lots to talk about, so we can try to make this program as great as possible. That is the most important thing for me today.
Cool.
All right. We'll see you soon. Y'all have a great day.
Bye. Have a
Lorena,
good
did you
week,
have something?
everyone. I said, have a good
Bye-bye.
week, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Bill.